Your single season is the best thing that ever happened to you because let's be real, you have some healing to do. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges, but what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we're going to be talking about maximizing your single season and why healing is so important. So let's get started. How is everybody's week going? I hope that you guys are doing well. Once again, Happy New Year 2025, new year, new energy, new resolutions. I'm super excited to see what 2025 has to bring for us. I want to go ahead and just say that I am truly favored and highly blessed because I am filming this on January 6th and it's a Monday. I was supposed to go back to work, but there's a snow day here in the DMV area. There's a decent amount of snow. Apparently this is a lot for DC. I'm from Connecticut, so we usually get more than this. They would still have school on this day, but I am very thankful because I was not ready to go back to work. But anybody who got some of the snow, I hope that you are at home safe. I hope that you have enough food at the house because a lot of people were trying to prepare, and I heard these lines at the grocery store were crazy. And I want to also just say Happy Three Kings Day to any Puerto Ricans out there or anybody who just celebrates Three Kings Day. It's an important holiday for my family, and I'm just super excited to go ahead and jump into this episode. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, y'all. I just want to say that the enemy is my biggest op because I tried to record this a few times and it was not working. So we're just going to go ahead and roll with the punches. Let's just be real. I'm seeing a lot of people getting married, having babies, all that extra stuff on social media. I don't know if anybody else is seeing that too, but it really had me feeling bad about myself and my position and where I'm at because I am very much single. And it had me a little worried about, am I going to be able to have the family that I want to have the marriage that I want to have, to achieve some of these goals for my personal life. But the more time that I spend in my single season, the more I'm realizing that it is the biggest blessing that God could have ever given me. I think in our society, we spend a lot of time and energy romanticizing relationships and having somebody with us through all the times, the good and the bad. But what we fail to understand is that the way we show up as a partner has a lot to do with how healed of an individual we are. For example, if you're somebody who struggles with abandonment issues, that is going to show up in your relationships. You're going to be very avoidant. You're going to be very distant with people, regardless of whether or not it's a romantic relationship, because you are worried that these people are going to leave you. So you try to keep your distance so that if they ever left, it wouldn't affect you. Or maybe you were cheated on and now you struggle with trust issues greatly because of the pain of having been cheated on. And so you just have a hard time with trusting people in relationships and entering new romantic relationships because you're worried about the experience that you've had previously. The great thing about the single season is that you'll be able to explore yourself wholeheartedly. This is the time for you to be as selfish as you can possibly be. You can explore your passions, your goals, your career goals for yourself, your personal goals. What do you want out of life? And most importantly, in addition to growing your faith, you can start to figure out what your traumas and your triggers are so that you can be able to work on them. Let's be real. Everybody has trauma and they are bound to be seen if we do not work on them. If we try to pretend that we don't have any traumas or we don't have any issues, we don't have any triggers, and we just try to go about life masking the pain that we've been through or ignoring the pain that we've been through, it is always going to find a way to show up. And the last thing that you want is to harm somebody else because of the triggers and the traumas that you have that you didn't work on. And that's why I really value my single season, is because I know that I want to be married one day. I know that I want to be a mom one day. And I also know for a fact that I don't want to be the mom that I had. I don't want to be the mom that I've seen throughout a lot of people in my life, and I don't want to have a lot of these marriages that I'm seeing on the internet. I want to have a very successful and a very healthy marriage, and the only way I can do that is if I work on my traumas and I work on my healing and I really take the time to just appreciate my single season. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of the things that you can do during your single season to really just maximize it, become the best person that you can possibly be, and work on your healing. One of the things I want to talk about is this idea of using your early 20s or your single season to be able to explore and try new things and figure out what it is that you like. I do very much agree with that idea, but I have a different vision of what that looks like and compared to what society tells us we should do. I personally don't subscribe to the narrative of I should be dating multiple people and doing all these extra things to try and figure out what it is that I want from another person. When I say explore, I mean that I should be exploring who I am, what my interests are, what my passions are, where do I want to be in life, and what it is that I need from a partner. And the only way that you can really do that is by yourself. In addition to exploring all those things, you need to be able to explore what your triggers are and what your traumas are so that you can heal them and so that you can truly go into your relationship as healed as you can possibly be. There are some traumas and there are some triggers that are going to take a long time to heal, and there is nothing wrong with that. But as long as you are able to start working on that healing process by yourself and not depending on another person to do it for you, that is really the key here before you start entering any relationships of any kind, whether that's romantic, platonic, or if you're trying to rebuild a family relationship. If you don't work on those traumas, it's going to affect every relationship that you have. I think the first thing we think of is that it's going to affect our romantic relationships, which is true, right? You can't show up as the best partner if you have all these traumas that are weighing you down and that are running your life. But if you can't show up as a good partner, how can you possibly show up as a good friend either? How can you show up as a good sister, as a good brother, as a good whatever? How can you possibly do that when you have these traumas running your life? All right, let's go ahead and talk about healing and identifying your traumas. So the definition of trauma, it literally means wound, injury, or shock. And then it says a traumatic event is one that a person finds overwhelming. This can be a natural disaster. This can be war or conflict. Maybe you were a victim of a crime. You could have been involved in or seen a serious accident. You could have been exposed to death, injury, or violence of some kind. Any of those things would be considered a traumatic event. Now, I just want to say, before I move on to this part, healing your traumas and identifying what triggers you have is very challenging, and it is a very difficult task. If you feel like you are not ready for this conversation, I don't blame you. You're more than welcome to go ahead and skip ahead about 5 to 7 minutes so that you don't have to hear any of this stuff. For those of you who are interested in listening to what I have to say in terms of healing and identifying your traumas, I just want to let you know two things. The first thing is that I am not a mental health professional in any way, shape, or form. I'm just a girl from the hood who has their own traumas and has their own healing to do and is working on some of that healing. The other thing too is when you start to work on your traumas and when you start to work on some of the triggers that you have, it can reopen wounds. It can re-traumatize you. It can be painful. And if you feel like you are not capable of doing that by yourself, there's nothing wrong with that. I would highly advise you, if you can, to work with a mental health professional to be able to talk about these things, find the best coping strategies for you, and also, if you can't find a mental health professional or you just don't have the funds for that, find a trusted loved one who has the capacity to be able to help you walk through some of these traumas that you have. And it's very important that you find somebody who has the capacity, not just somebody that you trust, because you may be trusting somebody and you may love them and all that extra stuff, but they don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to be able to hold whatever it is that you're going to tell them. So you really need to be able to identify somebody who has the capacity and to hold that space for you and to be vulnerable about some of these traumas. Not everybody that you love has that capacity because either their cup is just way too empty or they just don't have the ability to do that at this moment in time, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just find the person that is going to be able to do that for you. Now that we moved on to that spiel, I want to go ahead and just talk about what you can do. I really want you to spend some time alone or with that trusted loved one that you decided to talk to or the mental health professional and really just explore your traumas. Some of them are going to be extremely obvious. For example, I know for a fact that I struggle with abandonment issues heavily. That's not something I need to think about. I'm very hyper aware of that. But there are going to be other triggers and traumas that are not as evident to you that you're going to need to take that silent time to figure it out. We live in a world where we drown ourselves and our thoughts out with so much noise. We have social media, we have TV, we have music, we have activities, we have all of these things that take up so much space and so much time and cause so much noise in our brain that we don't have the time to ever really sit in silence and allow ourselves to just think. And I think a lot of people are doing that on purpose because they know that there are some things that will come up if they sit alone in silence and they're not ready to handle those things. And I am one of those people. There are some things that I'm just still, as much healing as I want to do and as much healing as I say that I do, there are some things that I'm still not ready to talk about yet or I'm not ready to address right now, and I don't want to spend that time doing that. But I want to advise you to spend that time alone and really just think about what those traumas and those triggers are. If you're not ready to dive deep into them, at least write them down so that you know this is something that I need to work on. I'm not ready to work on it right now, but I know that it's an issue for me. And you might find that there are some things that you are ready to work on right right now that you think about in your silent time, and that'll allow you to start taking those steps to close that gap and to say goodbye to that trauma and move forward with your life. If you're unsure as to how you can start identifying some of those traumas, I have 3 shadow work prompts for you that I'm going to read here to help you identify some of those traumas. First one is identify a pattern of conflict in your past relationships. What might this pattern reveal about your unmet needs or fears? Number 2, think of a moment where you felt intense anger or resentment towards someone. What underlying hurt or fear might this anger be masking? I was listening to the Express Yourself Black Man podcast where they had on a mental health professional as a guest, and he was just talking about how anger is a secondary emotion, and usually that stems from something else, and a lot of times it is hurt or it is invalidation for your feelings. Really think about where that anger is coming from, because it's not just I feel angry because I feel unheard. It's more like I'm upset or my feelings are hurt because I feel unheard. You're invalidating my feelings. Number 3, are there specific emotions that you try to avoid at all costs? How do you typically try to avoid them? Now, identifying and working on your traumas is a hard thing to do. But lucky for you that there is a bright side when you start to work on those things, because you will start to see that your relationships flourish. You will start to see that your relationship with yourself flourishes. You will start to see that you walk more confidently, that you feel more happy. You have more mental capacity to handle things. You don't feel like you're always running on empty or that you're drained. Because here's the thing about it. Think of your phone. Right? Every time you open an app, if you don't actively go out and close it, it's still running your battery in the background. You might be empty or you might feel extremely exhausted all the time. One, because you're a busy person, but also because you're not closing those apps in the background to save your battery. You're not healing those traumas that are in the background that you think don't exist. And so they're draining your battery slowly but surely. And you don't even realize until you go and check that you have all these apps open and they've been open for hours and sometimes even days. And so I really want you to understand that there is a bright side to that. And there are some things that you can do in addition to the shadow work prompts to help you. I'm always going to plug therapy. Now, I completely understand that this is not accessible to everybody. Therapy is expensive, especially if you don't have health insurance. If you do have health insurance, so you have the ability to afford therapy, I would highly suggest finding a mental health professional that is suitable for you, is specifically suitable for your needs. If you are somebody who struggles with PTSD, for example, you want to find a therapist that specializes in that. One thing that I really like, a resource that I really like, and I'll leave it linked in the description, is Psychology Today. You can find a therapist through their website. You will type in your zip code and immediately a bunch of therapists will come up, and you can filter it out by specialization. I don't know if you can filter it out by race, but a lot of them you can see their picture. So if you want a Black therapist or a therapist that aligns more with your race and culture, you can see that as well. And I really like that resource. It's a free resource. You don't have to pay anything to use it, and it's helpful. I've used it before in the past to try and find a therapist, and so I would highly recommend that. That is the only one I'm going to plug because we don't do free promos out here. But do your research on where else you can find therapists. But I highly recommend Psychology Today. Second thing is your faith and spirituality. Go to God with whatever it is that you're struggling with. I personally been going to God in terms of forgiving people. That is something that I struggle with a lot. And I don't feel like I have the strength on my own to be able to let go of some of the things that I'm struggling with. And so I like to go to God as much as I possibly can and as much as I'm willing, right? Because there are some times where it's like I'm still not ready to let go of this grudge, and I can't force it. I can't force it if I'm not ready. I can't pray about something that I know that I'm not ready to work on. But if I'm ready, I go to God and I just say, can you help me figure this out? And even if it's just baby steps, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not 110% ready. I'm not. I'm like 75% ready. So let's do some seriously small baby steps to help me work on forgiving other people, because that is something that I struggle with. Go to God. Now, I am not somebody who just says, go to God and that's it. No, because a part of that is like, it almost feels like invalidating. Like, okay, I went to God and I prayed, but what else can I do? And so I want to couple that with shadow work prompts. I'm not going to read them out because I don't want this episode to be too long, but I am going to leave a couple of shadow work prompts in the description of wherever you're watching this, so you can work on your healing and your trauma on your own, in addition to the prayer if you're somebody who believes in God. And I hope that those will be able to help you at least identify where your traumas are or what steps you can take to start your healing process. One of the most important things during your single season is just figuring out who you are, what your needs are, what you want out of life, what your passions are, all of that extra stuff. Now, can you do this with a partner? Sure. But doing this during your single season is ideal because you don't have any other distractions, you don't have any other noise, you don't have anybody else that you need to think about when you make some of these decisions for yourself. Honestly, this is the time to be as selfish as you can possibly be. Go ahead and take that job. Go ahead and make that move across the country or even out of the country. Go ahead and pursue that passion. Go ahead and start that business. Go ahead and do whatever it is that you feel like you've been wanting to do for the longest time, but for whatever reason, you felt like you couldn't. This is your opportunity to do that now. I don't want to sit here and bash anybody who's in a relationship that is trying to do some of this stuff in a relationship. That all I want to say is, if you're in a relationship, you may have the most supportive partner who encourages you to do everything that you want to do, and I love that for you. But even if they're not holding you back, you might hold yourself back because you love that person so much and you're not willing to make that move across the country and do long distance or break up with this person, even though you have this passion, because you care about them so much and you want to be in this relationship so much. And that's the thing that I find challenging about relationships, is that you can't be as selfish as you can be when you are single, and you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be selfish. You're in a relationship, you're in a partnership with somebody else, and there is somebody else to consider. But I just want you to know that if you have a partner who is fully supportive of you 110% and encourages you to do whatever it is, chase the moon, walk to the stars, all of that extra stuff, I love that for you. Make sure you're not the one who's blocking yourself instead because you're trying to protect your partner. If your partner is 110% supportive of you, be 110% supportive of yourself as well. Right before I applied to Georgetown, I was really idolizing a relationship. Like, I wanted one so badly. I just wanted to be in a partnership. I felt like I was ready and all that extra stuff. And I definitely wasn't. But it didn't take me long to realize that me not being in a relationship was the best thing, because I know I would have held myself back and I would have stayed in Massachusetts because I had a partner in that area that if they could or couldn't move, I wasn't ready to make that risk and just leave them. And so being single was the best thing that I could have done, because I was able to apply to Georgetown. I didn't have to ask anybody. I didn't have to consult anybody. I didn't have to worry about other people being upset or feeling like I was leaving them. I could just leave if I wanted to. And even now, if I wanted to pack a bag and go to Japan for a month, I could do that, and there's nobody I need to consult because I'm single. Once you start spending that time by yourself and figuring out what it is that you want to do, what your passions are, what your triggers and your traumas are, you're going to start to realize what you do and do not want in your life. And the reason I want you to spend so much time thinking about your traumas and your triggers is because they will help you figure out what you do and don't want in a partner. You don't need to go on 20 dates a week to try and figure out if you want this or if you want that. If you have this trauma and you've learned that because you struggle with this, you need somebody who speaks words of affirmation over your life, you don't need to date somebody to figure that out. You already knew that. If you're somebody who struggles with abandonment issues and you're doing the healing that you need to do on top of that, you're also going to realize that you need somebody who is going to make you feel secure, somebody who is going to give you that reassurance. And it doesn't always have to be them saying it. It might just be the gestures that they do. There's specific gestures that you're looking for that assure you or that make you feel secure enough to know that I don't need to worry about this person leaving me. You don't need to go on 20 days to figure that out. You don't need to be texting this person and that person and doing all this extra stuff and balancing a roster to figure that out. I don't subscribe to that narrative. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out right now. I don't believe in the roster and all of that extra stuff. I personally believe that the best way for you to figure out what it is that you want in a relationship is for you to spend the time alone, because you'll know what it is that you haven't gotten before that you realize that you need, or what it is that you would just like to have, or what it is that you give to others that you want in return. Ooh, here's another one. Spending time alone will tell you very quickly what it is that you will and will not allow into your space, into your life, into your energy, because listen, I spend a lot of time alone. I live alone, all that extra stuff. So I spend a lot of time alone, and I know for a fact that I'm not somebody who likes the club. I don't like going out. I don't like drinking. I don't like any of that stuff. So I already know that when I meet my person, I don't want somebody that goes to the club, that drinks, that smokes, that likes to party, all that extra stuff. That's not my vibe. And I want somebody that's going to be able to match my level and be like, okay, you want to chill at home, you want to do something fun, or you want to do a cool activity that isn't going to the club and that isn't going out to eat because that is just so played out. Let's go do something else. I already know that that's what I want. I also know that I'm not going to want somebody who brings negativity into my life, because I have a peaceful life living by myself. I have a peaceful life spending all this time alone. The people that are already in my life, my family, my friends, my loved ones, they bring nothing but peace and joy into my life. So I will be damned if I let a man come into my life and disrupt that. that will quickly start to tell you also what you need to cut off or who doesn't fit whatever it is that you're looking for. I don't need to go on X amount of dates to figure out that this person is not for me. There was this guy that approached me at the gym, and I already knew he wasn't the person for me. And not just because he said, he was kind of like about his faith, but just because of the way that he spoke, what his interests were, and how he tried to pursue me. I was like, this is not my vibe. This is not my type. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't need to go on all these dates to figure that out. The more time that I spend alone, the more time that I spend thinking about what it is that I want, the more time that I spend working on my traumas, the more I realize, back it up, because you're not my type. You're not going to fulfill what it is that I need, and I don't want to waste any time. So let's just go ahead and clean our hands and move on. This is my favorite one. Spending time alone will help you realize that the physicality of your partner is not everything. We live in a world where we have to be on 10 all the time. We have to look our best, where beauty matters, where your physicality matters. As much as we claim that it doesn't matter, it does. And we put so much emphasis on, do we look good together? Oh, we go together real bad. We look so good together. In all honesty, those looks are going to fade. How they look today is probably not how they're going to look tomorrow. This is very temporary. They could get hit by a bus. They could start having health problems. God forbid any of that stuff happens. You are going to just get old. You're not going to look like this. How you look right now in your 20s and your 30s, you're not going to look like that when you're 60 and 70 years old. So what you really need to be focusing on is the emotional support that this person gives you. You need to be focusing on the soul and falling in love with the soul of the person, because this shell that we live in is so temporary, and we just never know what's going to happen to us, and we could change. This shell could instantly shatter and we are somebody else now, or we look like somebody else now. But that soul is the thing that you want to fall in love with the most, and you will start to realize that there are certain things that you are letting up on in terms of physicality, because you'd rather, instead of having a 6'5" man, you'll be okay with the 5'11" man, but he provides everything that you need emotionally. And instead of being so worried about like, dang, they look good, and instead of looking at them with lustful eyes, you'll start to really examine their soul and examine their spirit and realize this is or is not the person for me. And if you feel like you're not there yet, or it's like, I don't know if I could let go of my dream 6'5" dark-skinned man, I understand. I do understand, but I just really want to remind you that, again, that physicality is going to fade. That is not going to be the thing that holds your relationship together. That's not going to give you the solid relationship where you're married for 30, 40, 50 plus years. It's really not. Honestly, the person that you fall in love with, their soul is going to be the thing that you should fall in love with, because that's the thing that's going to remain consistent. Are there going to be things about them that change as they get older? Yeah, but at their core, they remain consistent, but they just grow for the better, and you grow to love them even more because of the fact that they grew as a person and that they became better as a person. Ooh, this is my favorite one. Honestly, they're all good. Are you able to give what you're asking for? Okay. And I'm here for all the tea. I'm here for all the smoke. I'm here for all the comments, all of that extra stuff. Are you able to give what it is that you're asking for? If you say that you want an emotionally available partner, are you emotionally available? Are you able to talk about your feelings? Can you tell people that you love them? Are you able to cry in front of people? Are you okay with sharing your feelings? I know that I'm not, so I'm already coming for myself. But if you say that you want that in a partner, you need to be able to reciprocate that as well. You say that you want somebody that's physically fit and goes to the gym. Do you go to the gym? Do you eat your vegetables? Do you take care of your body? Oh, okay. Like, I think we focus so much on what we want. And I was just talking about this with my friend Kaylin. It's like a lot of people focus so much on what they want and just me. And we're not realizing that there's somebody else in that relationship. There's another half of that relationship. And you cannot just solely prioritize what it is that you want or what it is that you're getting out of a relationship, because you need to be able to match their energy or complement their energy, right? If you are somebody who is very feminine, very much in their feminine energy, you're probably going to want somebody who complements that, who is in their masculine, healthy masculine energy, and vice versa. You need to be able to reciprocate or complement whatever it is that you're asking for in your future partner. Otherwise, it's a wash. Don't even waste your time, because that's not fair. Don't just solely focus on what it is that you're getting out of this relationship, because it's not transactional. It's not supposed to be that way. Well, what can you give me and what can I give you? It's really just, you guys are a partnership. You guys are working together. You guys love each other. You guys care about each other. You guys complement each other. You guys are able to reciprocate whatever it is that the other person is able to give you. I was listening to this podcast, Express Yourself Black Man. This was a different episode. And the host Kizzle was talking about how you know that you're ready for a relationship when you can list off 10 things that you want in your next partner. And I'm going to go ahead and just specify. They're not superficial things. I want them to be tall. I want them to be dark skinned. I want them to have a low top fade. That doesn't count. No, like I want somebody who's emotionally available, somebody who's a man of Christ. I want somebody who has a provider mentality, somebody who has a healthy relationship with their emotions or has a good mental health. That's the type of list that I'll talk about, number one. And I really like that idea. And I want to just go ahead and add that if you list off 10 things and you say, these are the things that I know for a fact I want in a partner, can you complement or can you reciprocate those same 10 things in addition to that? That's going to be my add to that, because it's all cool if you know what you want. But what's not cool is if you know what you want, but you know full and well that you can't reciprocate that. What type of mess is that? Next one, prioritizing your relationship with God and realizing that his timing is always perfect. Your single season is the best time for you because not only do you get to explore your traumas and your triggers and work on them, even though that sounds so painful, it's honestly such a good thing, but you also get to focus on yourself and be selfish. Best thing is that you get to work on your relationship with God. There's no outside noise. There's no other person taking up your time, and that you're able to fully dedicate yourself to a relationship with God. There is this concept that I've been hearing about on the internet about being hidden by the Lord. And essentially what that means is that your hotline used to be blinging, okay, used to be going on dates, used to have people coming up to you, whatever the case may be, and now all of a sudden it's crickets. And honestly, this was the case not too long after I moved to DC, and I really was focusing on my faith and just getting myself out of a sad mental health state and just really getting myself to be healthy. And so I wasn't really worried about that, but it was like once I was out of that hole and once I was feeling a little bit better, I'm looking around like, where are prospects, God? Where's my future? How am I supposed to find my future husband if nobody is pursuing me, or if I'm not, if I'm not interested in anybody that I'm seeing either? How am I supposed to find my future husband? But I'm starting to realize that being hidden by the Lord is honestly such a blessing, because I'm being hidden in plain sight, and it's allowing me to refine myself, to work on myself, work on my relationship with God, and solely prioritize him and focus on him. I can't be worried about finding my future husband when my relationship with God could be stronger. And honestly, that needs to be the first thing that I worry about. I need to have my relationship with God at the top, and then I need to be worried about me. And then I can start looking for my future husband whenever I feel good and ready to do that. This season is also teaching me that in order for God to multiply, I need to be able to steward what I have already well. How is God supposed to add my future husband into my life when there are relationships that I could be working on? How is God supposed to add my future husband to my life when I need to be working on my relationship with myself, when I could strengthen my relationship with him? He cannot add any more to my plate if I can't handle my plate right now. It's like if you feed a child. If you feed a child and you see that their plate is still full, are you going to add more food to their plate? Or are you just going to be like, all right, let me let you handle this. If you do well with this, then we can talk about what dessert you're going to have after this. Same thing applies for your love life or any relationship. Or any relationship, as a matter of fact, because you want godly friends, but you can't handle the friendships that you have right now. Trust God's timing. And I know this could be a little challenging when you really want your partner, you really feel like you're ready for a relationship, you're ready to be able to give and take in a relationship and all of that extra stuff. I know this can be hard to hear when you feel like you've been waiting for a while, but honestly, you need to just trust his timing, because his timing is perfect. He is never behind. He is never late. His timing is always perfect. And honestly, I would rather wait 10, 20 more years to get the husband that God has for me than to rush the process and get the husband that I think that I want. Because honestly, whatever it is that you're thinking, I'm sure it is good. I'm sure it is. It's nice. It's all the stuff that you think that you want. But honestly, God knows what it is that you want, what it is that you need, even the things that you didn't even think about. And honestly, I want that. I want whatever it is that he has for me, whatever person it is that he has for me. And I'd rather do the waiting and get that love that I would have never even imagined, instead of going and doing it my way and just getting whatever it is that I thought. And it's probably some mediocre love. Whatever you're thinking of is good, but why have good when you can have better? God is always going to give you better. And even if it feels like you are waiting an eternity, be grateful for that, because at least you're waiting and he hasn't closed the door entirely. Because he could have easily closed the door and said, nah, that's not for you. You're not going to get married. But he's just saying, not right now. All right, so I have 3 key takeaways for you from today's episode. And the first one is, you need to be whole. Notice how I said whole, not perfect. You need to be whole before you can add a partner to your life. You need to be able to make yourself happy, take accountability for yourself, and be responsible for your own healing. Number 2, be selfish and explore everything that you've always wanted, everything that you possibly can, because there's nothing wrong with marriage and family. I want those things, right? But realistically speaking, you cannot be selfish once you're in a relationship. You definitely can't be selfish once you're a parent anymore. There are certain small things that you can be selfish about, but you can't just say, oh, I'm packing my bags and I'm going to be gone for a year to go ahead and explore this, that, and the third, and you have 4 kids at home and a husband or a wife. That's not cool. You can't do that. So do that now while you have the ability, even if it feels like there's no way. Like with me wanting to move out of Connecticut and Massachusetts, with me wanting to move out, it seemed like there was no way. When I tell you I didn't have no money in my pockets, I had nothing but a quarter and a paperclip, God made a way. And I'm able to be as selfish as I could possibly be now because I don't have a family to worry about. Even if you feel like there is no way, God will make a way for you. He wants you to maximize this season. Spend the time with him, spend the time healing on yourself, and explore the things that you want to explore. And my last key takeaway is prioritize your time with God and remember that his timing is always perfect. Before I move on to our affirmation for the week, I just had to tell this story because I thought it was funny, but it was also very valid. I was at church and, they say come up to the altar counselors if you want prayer. And so I do that and I tell her what I want prayer for. Thank God for moving me here. Allow me to use my gifts and talents however you want for me to serve other people. And I wanted to pray for a friend. That's all I asked for. So the altar counselor is doing a prayer, she's spitting a word. I'm grateful for that. And then I don't remember the exact wording, but it was something along the lines of, and God, if you want Sabrina to find someone to love. And I said, wait a second. Nobody asked for that. And I honestly don't even remember what she said after that because I was just so lost. I was like, I didn't ask for that. Like, appreciate you, but I'm not ready. So I was talking to my friend Clarenza and I was telling her what happened at church and how the altar counselor was pretty much praying for me to find somebody to love. And I was just saying, I need at least one more year. And she was like, you never know, your dream partner, your ideal person could pop up tomorrow and it could be everything that you wanted and more and this, that, and the third. And I was like, I understand what you're saying. And you're not wrong. They could pop up tomorrow, but it's not about them being everything that I want them to be. It's about me being everything that I want to be for myself and me being able to reciprocate whatever it is that I'm asking of them. I know I'm not ready to be the best partner that I can possibly be because I still have things that I need to work on. I know for a fact I struggle with trust issues. I know for a fact that I struggle with abandonment issues. And that would not be fair to my ideal man if he popped up tomorrow and said, I'm ready to pursue a relationship with you. And I just jumped into that because he's everything that I want and more. That's not fair to him. And I'm going to ruin whatever it is that God has given me because I didn't take my time and I didn't maximize my single season. So I'm like, all that sounds cool and that sounds dandy. But honestly, if my dream man popped up tomorrow, I would have to say I can't. Because that's not fair to you, and I wouldn't want to fumble the bag and potentially close the door forever on who was supposed to be my forever. And so I was just telling her, I need at least another year. I really need to just focus on my relationship with God. I need to continue to be selfish and pursue my passions and my dreams and my goals. And I really, really, really need to work on my traumas because I know that I want to be a wife and I know that I want to be a mom, but I don't want to perpetuate generational trauma onto my husband or onto my family and their families in the future. So I really want you to just keep that in mind too. If your ideal person pops up tomorrow, do you have the willpower to say, I'm not ready, and walk away from that and just temporarily close the door on that and come back to that later on? I would encourage you, and it might be difficult, especially if they look good, but I really would encourage you to just say you are everything that I'm looking for. And while I very much appreciate that, I'm not ready to give you what it is that you would need and deserve. And so I have to temporarily close the door on this. All right, y'all. I feel like that was a really good episode, but we have reached a point where we are at the affirmation for the week. And our affirmation for the week is, I am deserving of healing and self-love. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. However you want to speak this positivity onto your life, find a way to do it. So, I am deserving of healing and self-love. I am deserving of healing and self-love. I am deserving of healing and self-love. All right, y'all, that is all I have for you this week. I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Let me know what your thoughts are in terms of single season. Are you somebody who is also struggling with when is my partner going to come? Am I going to be able to have a relationship? Am I going to be able to have the family? Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you see the social media post for this, you can go ahead and leave us a comment. You can also leave comments on Spotify, which is very interesting. Go ahead and leave us a comment there as well. I do check all the social medias as much as I possibly can. And if you are not following us on social media, I highly recommend that you go and do that. You can follow us both on Instagram and TikTok at the HSL Pod. Again, that's Instagram and TikTok at the HSL Pod. You can watch us on YouTube if you are listening to this on an audio platform at The Hood Soft Life. And we are on all audio platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever else there is out there. I don't even know anymore. But feel free to follow us on all the platforms. I've also started my own lifestyle content creation where I just share a little bit more about myself and faith and fitness, and that's pretty much what I talk about over there, and just life in DC. I am going to be doing a single series, which I am pretty excited about. So if you want to talk more about your single season or how to maximize your single season or get some advice on that, go ahead and follow me on my personal platforms. That is Sabrina, SABRINAA .LIZET, Sabrina Lisette, on Instagram and TikTok. But until then, I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Bye.